We are now going to be doing our second top 30 positional ranking for the 2026 season, and we are going to be doing shooting guards today, which is going to be extremely tough because this is becoming a loaded position. Now, there's a ton of variance here as well. Some guys could end up being a point guard or a small forward at the end of the year. Guys like Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Ace Bailey, Asar Thompson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and some others will be in the small forward ranking video. And I have a bunch of honorable mentions that just missed out. I do believe guys from 26 to 36 are all very close, but I am predicting what's going to happen in the 2026 season, not today here in August of 2025. So those honorable mentions are Isaiah Joe of the Oklahoma City Thunder, a similar player in Miles McBride of the New York Knicks, Jalen Wells of the Memphis Grizzlies, Gary Trent Jr. of the Milwaukee Bucks, Keon Ellis of the Sacramento Kings. This one hurt leaving him off. Klay Thompson of the Dallas Mavericks, Colin Sexton of the Charlotte Hornets. Those are all my honorable mentions. And we're going to start things off with a rookie, and that is going to be Trey Johnson of the Washington Wizards. I don't expect the 2026 Wizards to be a good team whatsoever. They're going to have a very weak defense for most of the season, but I would not be totally shocked if Trey Johnson was the highest leading young scorer on this team. He could end up scoring more than a Bub Carrington or Bilal Coulibaly or an Alex Sarr in 2026. I do expect Chris Middleton and TJ McCollum to get their fair share of shots, but there's a good chance they're not going to be on this team after the All-Star break. Trey Johnson was an elite shooter in high school and at Texas, and what he did at Texas, kind of being that sole engine of that offense and carrying them to a playing tournament game of March Madness. There's a reason why Trey Johnson was in talks to go number 3 at one point to Philadelphia, because he could be a microwave scorer. And I think he's going to be a very productive rookie in year number 1, but it may not be the best all-around season because the Wizards are most likely going to be bad. And then one spot ahead of Trey Johnson, I have another rookie, Con Knippel of the Charlotte Hornets. I do expect LaMelo to be the point guard, Brandon Miller to be the small forward, and Con Knippel to be the shooting guard. And I think he'll be a more well-rounded player in 2026 as a rookie than, his teammate Colin Sexton. And you also have Trey Mann and Spencer Dinwiddie and a bunch of others in that backcourt, but I do think Con Knippel is going to be a very safe shooter. He was my best shooter in the 2025 draft class. There's a reason why he went 4th overall. He can hold his own defensively with his strength and his lateral quickness, and he's a really good playmaker as well, so I think he can get some runtime as a backup lead ball handler for this team. I think there's a very good chance, and maybe something I would want to guarantee, that he's going to be a better shooter than Trey Johnson in their rookie seasons. But those two were my best shooters in the 2025 draft class, and I think both of them could be fringe top 30 shooting guards just in year number 1. It's not now or never for this guy, but it's going to be a very big year number 3 for Keonte George of the Utah Jazz. When he got drafted back in 2023, they were in the first year post Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and he was one of the more exciting young pieces on this team. So he got plenty of shots in his rookie and sophomore year, getting around 11 a night as a rookie 20-year-old and around 14 a night last year for the worst team in the NBA. But now that they've added guys like Walter Clayton and Ace Bailey this offseason, Markkanen's going to be healthy at the start of next year's season. Bryce Sensabaugh is due for a leap. You have Isaiah Collier and others that want to get their fair shots in Utah. There's maybe not a clear path for Keonte George to be the main guy in Utah. Maybe he was the most exciting young piece that could score the basketball last year, but that's probably going to be Ace Bailey going forward. Keonte George has yet to have a season above 40% from the field, but I do think him more so being a full-on shooting guard now with Isaiah Collier and Walter Clayton being the point guards. Keonte George will get better looks on the perimeter, so I do expect the field goal and three-point percentage to go up next year. He's not going to have to carry this team's offense at some times when he had to do that in year number 1 and year number 2. He's a really good free throw shooter. He's a good ball handler. He could be a very streaky shooter, but I think he could be better at the rim than some of these other guys as well. I think there's a safe chance that Con and Trey are around this range. Keonte George could be a top 20 shooting guard, but he could also not even be a top 40 shooting guard next year. I'm still invested into Keonte George, and I think he can have a productive year number 3. Coming in at number 27, somebody that was in the draft class with Keonte George that had a phenomenal first half, but struggled after the All-Star break. Grady Dick of the Toronto Raptors. Grady Dick was fully breaking out last year, especially in the first month of the NBA season. In the month of October, in his first 5 games, 48% from the field, 34% from 3, averaged 18.8 points. Then he averaged 18 points again in November, but just on a 53% true shooting. He had a true shooting percentage sub 50% after the trade deadline. But the Toronto Raptors are going to need his high volume 3-point shooting. We saw him last year take strides as an initiator and a creator, somebody that can make a dribble move and pull up on the baseline. Now you have Scotty Barnes fully healthy. Now you have Brandon Ingram, some non-consistent shooters in that half court. So Toronto desperately needs Grady Dick to be a good shooter for them next year, because they could have terrible floor spacing if he's not going to perform. Like I said, for Keonte George, it's going to be a big year number 3. Same thing with Grady Dick going forward. Coming in at number 26 is Dante Devenzo of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Somebody that doesn't have as high of a ceiling as the couple guys we just mentioned because they were recently drafted, but he has an extremely high floor given how consistent he's been over the last few years in the NBA. He really broke out at an age 27 season, a couple years removed from that serious injury he had in the earlier part of his career, and he was a stud for the New York Knicks. 40% from 3 on around 9 attempts a night, 15.5 points. Then he gets traded late in the offseason in the Karl-Anthony Towns Julius Randle trade, and he got off to a rough start in his Timberwolves uniform. He had that turf toe injury, but still ended up shooting 40% from 3, 7 attempts a night. He plays with a ton of effort, a ton of enthusiasm, and he still averaged 12 points and 3.5 assists. He's going to be a great 3-point shooter, a solid point of attack defender that can run around in the half court as well, and I think has a high floor compared to some of these other guys we've talked about. Coming in at number 25, I have Stephon Castle of the San Antonio Spurs. I still have a top 30 ranking on him, and he's going to be about 21 years old at the start of the 2026 season. You may think that's too low for somebody that just won Rookie of the Year. And Stephon Castle, don't get me wrong, he was great in his rookie season, but he did shoot 42% from the field, 28% from 3, and 72% from the free throw line. That is a true shooting percentage of 52%. Now, I know he had a ton of workload, especially after the Wemby shutdown and De'Aaron Fox got hurt, and rookie guards tend to have a lower efficiency, but I'd like to see him be a little bit more consistent because he's going to be a full-on shooting guard this year. De'Aaron Fox is going to be a point guard. Dylan Harper is going to be a point guard. They need Stephon Castle to be a good enough perimeter player to get the most value out of him. We know that he's a very solid defender. We know that he could finish at the rim, but he needs to take strides with his three-point shot. So that's why I'm being a little conservative in his ranking. I mean, he's going to be 21 years old next year. There's a really good chance that guys that I've talked about like Grady Dick, Dante Devenzo, Knipple, Johnson, and George are all going to be better three-point shooters than Stephon Castle, but he's as good as a defender as you can get so far in this video. And I don't know if the 14.7 points are going to go up either now that Dylan Harper is here, and you also have De'Aaron Fox fully healthy and Victor Wembanyama. Coming in at number 24 from the 2024 draft class with Stephon Castle, I actually have Jared McCain. So Jared McCain, I kind of struggled if I wanted him at a point guard or shooting guard spot. I just feel like he's a more traditional two guard, the way he's able to move without the ball in his hands. He's a solid enough passer, but he's not somebody to initiate the offense and run point. Last year, in my opinion, he would have won Rookie of the Year if he stayed healthy. He finished 7th in Rookie of the Year voting, and he played 23 games because he was amazing in those 23 games. 46% from the field, 38% from 3, 87% from the free throw line, and was amazing when he got inserted into the starting lineup when Philly had all those injuries last year. Now, Philly has to be somewhat healthier, right? Paul George has to play more, and Embiid has to play more, so I'm not too sure that Jared McCain's numbers are going to go up a ton either, now that he was going from maybe the 1 or 2 option at times last year to a 4, 5, or 6 option because they just drafted VJ Edgecombe, who I'm not going to have here either because of the lack of volume and touches in year number 1, and I think Jared McCain is going to be an elite three-point shooter, but I don't know if he's going to have as much opportunity just given that Maxey, George, and Embiid should be a little bit more healthier in 2026, but you can never really say that with confidence with those guys. Maybe a very interesting name here coming in at number 23. It's going to be an interesting year for Aaron Nesmith of the Indiana Pacers. So I have Benedict Mathurin as a small forward. I had Andrew Nembhard as a point guard. They're going to need these guys to step up in the absence of Miles Turner and Tyrese Halliburton. I think Aaron Nesmith is going to be the full-time starting shooting guard, and he was great last year down the stretch for the Indiana Pacers. He was obviously traded to Indiana in that 2022 offseason. He averaged a career-high points in 2024, 12 a night, and he ended up shooting 41% from 3. And then last year, 50% from the field, 43% from 3 on around 4 attempts a night, and 91% from the free throw line. And I'm still having nightmares what he did in the playoffs against the New York Knicks, especially in that game number 1, where he was an elite shooter yet again in the playoffs from 3. 51% in round number 1 from 3 against the Bucks, 45% against the Cavs, 53% against the Knicks, and 47% against the best defense in the NBA in the OKC Thunder. I think Nesmith is a very solid defender as well. Probably better than everybody we've talked about so far in this ranking outside of maybe Stephon Castle on that end of the floor. And I think he's going to be an elite shooter yet again in 2026. I'm getting lower and lower on this guy, and it's sad to say, but yeah, coming in at number 22, I do have RJ Barrett. I just feel like it's a really weird fit with him in Toronto. We haven't seen RJ Barrett carry an offense whatsoever, and now he's going to be either the 3rd, 4th, or 5th option in Toronto next year. You know Scotty Barnes and Brendan Ingram are going to get majority of the touches. I wouldn't be surprised if Emmanuel quickly had a higher usage rate because they need somebody to initiate the offense with the ball in his hands. And you also have Jakob Poeltl, who's getting paid a lot of money as well. Heck, RJ Barrett could get traded before this offseason is over, so I have him here at number 22. Last year, he played 58 games, exactly the amount he played in 2024. He shot 46% from the field, 35% from three, and is still an abysmal free throw shooter, 63% from the line a night, and is missing about 2 free throws a game, which is kind of crazy. He did average 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 5.5 assists for a bad Raptors team. I just don't know if those are empty stats at this moment, and I don't think his numbers are going to get any better next year. Maybe the 3-point percentage goes up because he's going to have some other guys on his team that can generate some gravity around him, like Scottie and Brandon Ingram. I just don't know if I could put RJ Barrett any higher on this ranking right now. And also a big what if for my guy at number 21, Jaden Ivey, coming off a serious injury that derailed his 2025 season in year number 3. He only played 30 games, and it's a shame because it was by far the best start to his career. He was around a 41% field goal shooter going into last year. He shot 46% from the field. He shot 40% from three, 73% from the free throw line, averaged 17.5 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. He's kind of a similar player to RJ Barrett in terms of their shot selection and their efficiency to start off their careers, but I like Ivy a lot more around the rim. I think that's something RJ can struggle at times with, and I do have more faith in Jaden Ivey's shot, his free throw shot, and his overall playmaking ability. Like I said, this is a little bit of a risky selection and ranking just because he's coming off a serious injury, but he's 23 years old. It's a big year 4 for him because he can get a contract at the end of the season, and I do believe in Ivy bouncing back. Maybe it's not going to be at the start of the season, but as we get closer to the middle part, I think he can fully break out in year number 4. And this is also a wild ranking, I think, for me, because I've never been so high on him, and he's not currently on a team right now. The moment I'm recording this, the Nets haven't re-signed him. I have Cam Thomas at number 20, and you may be like, Matt, Cam Thomas does not pass the ball and he does not play defense. Well, there's a lot of guys that I've talked about that also don't really pass the ball or not great defenders whatsoever. At least I could trust Cam Thomas's shot. Last year, he did shoot 43% from the field, 35% from three, 88% from the free throw line, but he took 18 shots a night because nobody else outside of Cam Johnson or at the start of the year, Dennis Schroeder, really wanted to orchestrate the offense. And Cam Thomas is 23 years old, and I think this is a humbling experience for Cam Thomas, who didn't get rewarded a big contract extension from the Nets this offseason. He was phenomenal for Brooklyn in 2024, where he averaged 22.5 points per game. Last year was 24 points per game. I do think these are somewhat empty stats. He's not going to be able to carry an offense into the playoffs one day, but I do think as a complementary piece, if he could buy into that role, can be very efficient as a secondary or tertiary scorer in the half court. So I do think, like I said, this is a humbling experience for Cam Thomas this offseason. Maybe he's not even on the Nets next year, but I do think we could see a productive year number 5 from Cam Thomas in Brooklyn. Coming in here at number 19, I have Quinn Grimes of the Philadelphia 76ers. Very similar to what I said before about Jared McCain. With all these guys healthy in Philadelphia, I don't think the numbers are going to be as flashy as they were last year when they had way more touches than they would normally get. Last year in a 28-game sample size after getting traded from Dallas to Philadelphia, Quinn Grimes averaged 22 points, 4.5 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 47% from the field, 37% from three. But I've always loved Quinn Grimes' defense. I think he's one of the best defenders we have talked about in this ranking so far, and he's been an elite 3-point shooter for basically every year of his career outside of year number 3, where he got off to a bad start, lost all his confidence in New York, Tibbs didn't trust him, and then he was traded to the Detroit Pistons, where he was not able to generate any good looks because that team was just so abysmal offensively. And last year we saw him in a very good environment in Dallas. He played well in Philadelphia. Also, he's going to get great looks in the corner, spot up in transition, playing with Embiid and Maxey full time. And as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of Quinn Grimes' defense, and I think he could be a top 20 shooting guard in the 2026 season. I mentioned it before when I talked about Keonte George, Grady Dick, big year number 3s for them. I have somebody going into year number 4 that didn't get extended this offseason. Maybe it does happen before the season starts, but they added some guys in the backcourt like Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard. And I'm talking about Shaden Sharp of the Portland Trailblazers, somebody that is still just 22 years old. He came over not playing any college basketball, basically went from high school to the NBA, and he had a very productive and athletic popping rookie season. He was banged up a ton in year number 2 as a 20-year-old, only appearing in 32 games. Last year, we saw the flashes from Shaden Sharp. The big thing for him, the big swing skill, the 3-point shot, because he took around 5.5 3-point attempts 2 years ago and 6.5 3-point attempts last year, but he's yet to be an above average 3-point shooter after a way smaller sample size in his rookie year from 3. He did average 18.5 points, 4.5 rebounds. I think the blend of his athleticism, quickness, and length can make him a very very good defender on that end of the floor, and I hope playing with Jrue Holiday can only help him with his learning and development defensively, because he has all the potential in the world, and I'm really hoping the external and internal factors in Portland can help Shaden Sharp have the best year of his career yet. Coming in at number 17, I have Herb Jones of the New Orleans Pelicans, somebody you could definitely have at the small forward position. But when I'm looking at this Pelicans roster, he's going to be the shooting guard next year, in my opinion, at least to start off the year. I think Jordan Poole is going to be the point guard, Herb at the 2, Trey at the 3, Zion at the 4. If you disagree, that's completely fine with me. We're in the modern NBA where so many of these guys can play all over the place, and we're kind of positionalists at this point. So figuring out shooting guards, the power forwards, can sometimes be a little tricky, but I do think Herb Jones can revert back to what he was in 2024 as a top 5 wing defender in the sport. He was on all defensive first team, 5th in defensive player of the year voting, and he shot 41% from 3. Last year, Herb Jones was banged up a ton as well, only playing 20 games. He did struggle with his efficiency, but was still a solid defender when he was out there. He was just rewarded a nice contract extension from the Pelicans this offseason, 3 years, $67 million, and I think we're going to see him bounce back in 2026. I have a couple guys in the Miami Heat backcourt here. I'm not talking about Tyler Hero yet. We're going to talk about Norman Powell, who they just picked up in a trade for basically nothing this offseason. So coming in at 16, I have somebody that basically broke out in year number 10 last year for the LA Clippers, where Powell had the best year of his career. He was a top 5 6-man of the year candidate in Los Angeles in 2023 and in 2024. But last year, the first year without Paul George, he averaged 22 points, 3 rebounds, shot 41% from 3, 80% from the free throw line, 48% from the field, and could have won most improved player in year number 10, like I said. So I think in Miami, we're going to see him try to play extremely well because he's going to be in a contract year, and the Miami Heat owe him nothing right now. He's done nothing for the Miami Heat in years past, so they don't have to reward him with a contract extension at the moment. So I think we could see a very productive year number 11 from Norman Powell in his age 32 season, the oldest player we have talked about so far. Coming in at number 15, somebody that's perfect in the Denver Nuggets system, Christian Braun. Christian Braun was a vital part of when they won a title as a rookie in his 2023 season. He came off the bench a ton in year number 4, but last year also could have won most improved player. I'm surprised he didn't finish higher in the voting because he went from 7 points as a sophomore to 15.5 points as a third-year player in the NBA. The efficiency went up as well with the volume, minutes, and starts going up. He shot 58% from the field, 39% from 3, 83% from the free throw line. Also averaged 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 1.1 steals a night. His true shooting from year number 2 to year number 3 went up from 55% to 66.5%, and he's still just 24 years old. He definitely gets a bump playing with Nikola Jokic, but yeah, replaced KCP perfectly in Denver last year, and I think is going to be a top 15 shooting guard in 2026. I don't know if people are down on him, and he got traded this offseason. Maybe that's going to be a wake-up call for Jalen Green, but I'm excited about Jalen Green in Phoenix. I do have him here at number 14. I have another shooting guard from Phoenix that we're going to get to in a little bit. And I'm intrigued to see who's going to be like the main point guard and the main shooting guard. I don't think anybody can predict that right now. There's been reports saying it's going to be Jalen Green or it's going to be Devin Booker. And yeah, like I said, Jalen Green got traded this offseason. He's no longer on the team that drafted him with the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft. Jalen Green last year averaged 21 points, was the leading scorer on a 2 seed in a loaded Western Conference, but the efficiency was still all over the place. He could not be consistent any single month outside of the month of March. I still don't know why that's a thing for Jalen Green, but I'm excited to see him with a different coach in Jordan Ott in Phoenix. He's 23 years old still, has a ton of potential, and has 3 guaranteed years left of this contract in his career, and I hope that he could be a floor raiser for the Phoenix Suns next year, and maybe he just needs a change of scenery. Coming in at number 13, maybe a surprising name here, but he's kind of the shooting guard for the New York Knicks, Josh Hart. Josh Hart last year was an incredible player for the Knicks. He's somebody that's been relatively healthy since he got traded to the Knicks, playing 25 games for them, 76 games total that year, 81 games in 2024, and 77 games last year, leading the NBA in minutes under Tom Thibodeau. He averaged 13.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, 6 assists a night for Josh Hart, 1.5 steals, shot 52% from the field, is extremely talented around the rim. The 3-point shot can still be a little bit shaky. Shot 33% from 3, and he shot 78% from the free throw line, but he's a good defender. He could play that point of attack defense with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby in New York. He's a solid cutter, slasher, and is one of the best transition runners in in the NBA, and I still believe he's somewhat underrated in the league and is under a great contract in New York, making roughly $20 million for the next 3 years. Another change of scenery player coming in here at number 12. Maybe I don't want to say it's over for him yet. I got Bradley Beal, the new LA Clipper. I think it's going to help out Beal a ton playing in Los Angeles rather than Phoenix, and he's going to be surrounded in probably a more competitive environment than he was over the last 2 years in Phoenix. And yes, Bradley Beal making $50 million a year is not what I want for my organization, but Bradley Beal making $5.5 million, yeah, I'll sign up for that. He's still just 32 years old, around the same age as Norman Powell. Last year in 53 games, he averaged 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists, shot 50% from the field, 38% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line. It's not like he's fallen off any cliff just yet, and I wouldn't be totally shocked if he scored more than James Harden in Los Angeles, with him now being the secondary shot creator next to Kawhi Leonard. I'm just excited to watch Bradley Beal in Los Angeles. This is one I could definitely regret in a year from now, but I want to just see if Bradley Beal has a little bit left in the tank. Coming in at number 11, just missing out on the top 10, was last year's most improved player, Dyson Daniels of the Atlanta Hawks. Dyson Daniels is already one of the best defenders in the league in year number 3. Last year, like I said, one most improved player, was the runner-up to Evan Mobley in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Would have been number 3 if Wemby was healthy, but ended up on all defensive first team in his first year in Atlanta as a 21/22-year-old. He averaged 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shot 49% from the field, 34% from 3, and 59% from the free throw line. I'm being a little cautious here of saying Dyson Daniels being a top 10 shooting guard because Jalen Johnson is going to be healthy again, so Dyson is no longer going to be the number 2 scoring option for Atlanta next year. Who knows, maybe Zachary Reeves is going to get a scoring bump. You have Kristaps Porzingis coming in as well, and Dyson has not had a long time track record of being a consistent three-point shooter. He struggled still last year. 34% from 3 is far from perfect, and he is not a good free throw shooter, so I can't say with confidence that he's going to be an above average three-point shooter next year, but he's great around the rim. He uses his elite athleticism, length, and quickness within the half court, and I think he's going to be around this range, and I would not be surprised if he was a top 10 shooting guard. But coming in at number 10, maybe I'm overrating him a little bit. Maybe this is recency bias. I do have Alex Caruso of the OKC Thunder. Now, I thought about having guys like Dyson Daniels, Jalen Green, Josh Hart, Christian Brown ahead of Alex Caruso, but Caruso is so good defensively. There's going to be no award next to his name from the 2025 season, no defensive awards because he just played 54 games, but he would have finished top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting in my opinion, and he definitely would have made an all defensive team as well. He averaged just 7 points, but he was on a 68-win OKC Thunder team. The on-off defensive analytics adore Alex Caruso, and you could say he was the best defender on the best defense of the 21st century last year. Shot around 45% from the field and 35% from 3, which is very impressive because he got off to such an abysmal start last year, which kind of cratered his efficiency. Last year, he had a 51% true shooting percentage in 33 games before the All-Star break, and then in 21 games after the All-Star break, 63% true shooting percentage. So yeah, this could just be some prisoner of the moment just because he was one of the best players on a team that just won the NBA Finals. He's going to be 31 years old. There could be some room for regression, so you can let me know what you guys think in the comments, but he cracks the top 10. So hey, yeah, this is me editing this video, and usually when I do these player rankings, there's somebody that slips through the cracks. And when I was initially making this, I was like, oh, I probably had him in the point guard rankings. No, I didn't have him there, and I wanted to give him a mention here because I do think he would come in at number 10. So for this ranking, he's going to be 9.5, and that is Coby White of the Chicago Bulls. Coby White last year proved that he was no fluke from the 2024 season, where he finished basically runner-up to Tyrese Maxey in the most improved player voting. He averaged, once again, around 20 points per game, and the efficiency went up in 2025 compared to 2024. 45% from the field, 37% from 3, taking about 1 more per night than 2024, and he went up to 90% from the free throw line with taking more free throws per game. He finally eclipsed 60% true shooting in his career, and at 25 years old and a pending free agent in 2026, Coby White is going to get a lot of money either by the Chicago Bulls, if not a different team on the open market. So yeah, I apologize not having him here initially in the top 30. He would be right behind my number 9 spot and 1 spot ahead of his former Chicago Bulls teammate Alex Caruso. But I do think there's a gap between Alex Caruso at 10 and the next 5 or so guys we're going to talk about, because you could order these next 5 in any different way. I'd ask you guys on Twitter, the community tab here on the channel. I think you can order these guys in 5 different ways, but coming in at number 9, I went with Austin Reeves of the LA Lakers. Austin Reeves last year was phenomenal after they acquired Luka Doncic at the trade deadline. He finished with some really flashy numbers on the offensive end of the floor. 20 points per game, 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 37 from 3, 46% from the field. He's 27 years old. He's got such great decision making in transition and in the half court, where you could play him at your point guard position and you'd be completely fine with that. He did struggle last year against Minnesota in the playoffs. Hopefully that is not going to be a consistent thing for him, because he did struggle against Denver in round number 1 in the 2024 playoffs. But now he gets a full year to play alongside Luka Doncic, one of the best initiators and passers in the NBA. Reeves is also in a contract year as well, playing for some big time money in the 2026 offseason. I think for sure will be a top 10 shooting guard next year. Now coming in at number 8, I do have Zack Lavine of the Sacramento Kings. Not in as big of a market, maybe not as popular anymore as somebody like Austin Reeves, but Lavine is still 30 years old, and I feel like if he was just a little bit more consistent, could be easily a top 5 shooting guard in the sport. He averaged 22.5 points last year in 32 games after getting traded to the Kings, 51% from the field, 44% from 3, 87% from the free throw line. He's just taking 16 shots a night. I wish Zack Lavine was a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more consistent, because he could be one of the best offensive shooting guards in the NBA. He was extremely banged up in 2024, basically eliminated any trade value he had that year. We all know he was traded in the De'Aaron Fox trade last year. But outside of 2024, he's basically somebody that shoots around 50% from the field, around 40% from 3, and almost 90% from the free throw line. He's a solid rebounder and passer as well. Not a great defender. Sometimes the shot selection could be a little bit off. And I know he's overpaid, but I also think Zack Lavine is somewhat underrated. So I mentioned him before when I talked about Norman Powell. I have Tyler Hero coming in at number 7, who was an all-star in the 2025 season. Last year, basically without Jimmy Butler for most of the year, Hero played in 77 games. He averaged 24 points. Like I said, was an all-star, 5.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 47, 37, 87 splits. He was a phenomenal shot creator, initiator, and playmaker in the half court. For pretty much most of the season, he had a great first half, and honestly was super consistent in the second half as well. A 60% true shooting in the 26 games after the All-Star break. And I thought looked fine defensively as well. I love Davion Mitchell, and I hope Tyler Hero is the 2 and Norman Powell is a great 6-man for them next year. And we kind of know now that Tyler Hero can't be your number 1 in a playoff series. We've seen him struggle against Boston 2 years ago and Cleveland last year. I still think he's almost a top 5 shooting guard in the sport, but just beating out Tyler Hero here at number 6, probably the last guy in that group that I had a tough time ranking, Desmond Bane of the Orlando Magic. Because Desmond Bane has been an elite 3-point shooter for all of his career. In the 4 years at TCU, the 5 years in Memphis, last year he averaged 19 points, but shot 39% from 3 on 6 attempts a night. And his role is not going to be much different going from Memphis to Orlando. He was sometimes the number 2, sometimes the number 3 behind Ja and Triple J in Memphis. Next year, he's going to be either the 2 behind Paolo or the 3 behind Franz Wagner. He's definitely going to get more shots than Jalen Suggs. And when Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner get double teamed at times, Desmond Bane is going to get so many open looks. And the Orlando Magic desperately need somebody like Desmond Bane to perform next year, given how bad their 3-point shooting was last year. But I also wouldn't be totally surprised if Desmond Bane's numbers went down, given that Paolo and Franz are also going to get 18 plus shots a night. Coming in at number 5, I have Derek White of the Boston Celtics. Somebody Boston needs to step up this year with no longer having Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, and Jason Tatum either on their team or healthy for 2026. But we know that Derek White is still one of the best shooting guards in the game. Last year, he averaged a career high 16.5 points per game, 5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, and shot 38% from 3. He got some Defensive Player of the Year votes, and basically and in my opinion, is a top 3 defender that we have mentioned so far. He's probably just slightly behind Alex Caruso and Dyson Daniels, maybe Herb Jones as well, but he's definitely in that tier 1 of defensive shooting guards that have made this ranking. And I also think he's a lot better of an offensive player than a Derek White, Herb Jones, and Alex Caruso as well. So you have an elite defensive player and almost a perfect offensive player in this role specifically. That is going to make you a top 5 shooting guard in the game. Now with no Jason Tatum in Boston, maybe Derek White's numbers go down. Maybe it's something similar to like Tyrese Maxey in Philly, where his numbers go down when Joel Embiid is out. But coming in at number 4, I think he's going to play shooting guard next year. Amen Thompson of the Houston Rockets. I am so high on year 3 Amen Thompson, somebody that has just skyrocketed into a completely different tier from year number 1 to year number 2. And it was kind of like a 20-game stretch in the 2025 season where we're like, okay, this is one of the 10 best players under the age of 25 in the sport that I want to build around. And Amen was an elite defender last year as well. Finished on all all defensive first team, finished 5th in defensive player of the year voting, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 55% from the field on a 2 seed in the Western Conference. Definitely a more impactful player for the Houston Rockets than a Jalen Green last year. Maybe even an Alperen Şengün at times, who was a 22-year-old all-star. I expect next year's lineup to be Fred VanVleet at the 1, Amen at the 2, KD at the 3, Jabari at the 4, Şengün at the 5. And last year, Amen did play all over the place as well. He spent some time at shooting guard, small forward, and power forward. So yeah, you could definitely have him at the small forward position, but like I said, I think he's going to play shooting guard next year. He's going to be an elite defender yet again, and maybe his offensive numbers are even going to go up. But I have a clear top 3 in shooting guards for 2026. I don't think a debate at number 1, but I think there's a debate here at number 2 and number 3. They've been kind of compared to each other throughout their whole careers. And coming in at number 3, I do have Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. I still have him in my shooting guard rankings. I thought this was extremely tough. I asked you guys on Twitter. You said have him in the shooting guard rankings. Last year was quote unquote a down year for Devin Booker, and he still averaged 25.5 points, 7 assists, shot 46% from the field and 33% from 3. Probably his worst 3-point shooting season in the 2020s. Maybe the 2019 season was a little bit worse. But yeah, it was one of the worst 3-point shooting years of his career. But I think he's going to be great next year for a Suns team that maybe got a little bit more well-rounded. Yeah, you traded one of your best players in Kevin Durant. You bought out Bradley Beal, but you added some good complementary pieces around Devin Booker that should help him defensively. And Jalen Green can still carry a high workload as well. I think Devin Booker is going to be great. There's a reason why he just got a $75 million a year extension from Phoenix this offseason. I still believe there's a big gap from Amen Thompson at 4 to Devin Booker at 3. And I'd be perfectly okay if you had him at number 2. But I do have Donovan Mitchell at number 2. And I think he gets a bump playing with a 64-win team over there in Cleveland that has a defensive player of the year big, another all-star caliber big in Jared Allen, and an all-star caliber point guard in Darius Garland. They're very well coached by Kenny Atkinson. And Donovan Mitchell has not lost a step since getting traded from Utah to Cleveland. Maybe his best year was 2023. You could even say last year was maybe the least impressive regular season for Mitchell, but he also doesn't have to do too much either given how good the team is. So maybe you think Devin Booker could be a better floor raiser, but can Donovan Mitchell be a better ceiling raiser? Maybe you think it's the opposite. I mean, he did finish 5th in MVP voting last year, was an all-star, and finished on All-NBA first team for the first time in his career. Sometimes he can struggle at the rim or just inside the 3-point line, but he's still an elite scorer. He still tried to put the team on his back in the playoffs as well when they lost to the Indiana Pacers. In those 5 games, he averaged 34 points in 33 minutes. He did all he could, and I still think is a top 2 shooting guard in the sport. And maybe one day we're going to talk about Donovan Mitchell as a point guard. Like, we're already talking about Devin Booker, and this is probably Devin Booker's last year in my shooting guard rankings. It's kind of sad. And yeah, I think it's a pretty simple number 1, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope of the Memphis Grizzlies. Yeah, now I obviously have Anthony Edwards, who's pretty much been the best shooting guard in the sport in my opinion over the last 2 years since he brought Minnesota to the conference finals in 2024. I think that was the moment where he was 22 years old and he took the crown as the best shooting guard in the NBA from Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell. So over the last 2 years, since Ant has taken Minnesota to back-to-back Western Conference finals, beating some great teams in the playoffs, he's averaged around 27 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists on 45, 38, 83 splits. He could be a great defender when he wants to, and he could step up in the clutch on that end of the floor. He just turned 24 years old, and I feel like we are not even in his prime yet. And there's probably a better chance that Anthony Edwards is a top 5 player in the league next year than somebody else taking his crown as the best shooting guard in the NBA. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Those are my top 30 shooting guards for the 2026 season. Let me know what you guys think about those down below. Did you agree with any of my rankings? Did you disagree? How would you order your top 5 as well? Let me know down below. Hit that subscribe button so you know when I drop my top 30 small forwards, those will be next, and I'll catch y'all there. Peace.